I think every album I make, I want to get a bit closer to myself. Really, that's what I'm looking to do, is like feel more connected to myself, which I think is what we all want as we go through life and get older. We all want to feel closer to who we are.
First of all, congrats on this new album. It's super awesome. You know, as a fan of yours, I loved your first two records, and I love you take listeners on a bit of a different direction sonically on this new record, and I think they're going to really dig it.
Thank you.
So first of all, tell me, you know, how did you want to push the musical envelope on the new record, Love Goes?
I think for me as a vocalist, I got very set in my ways, in the ways that I was writing music. And I really was always fascinated by some of the best top liners in the world. I remember I did a session with Sia when I was 21, I think. And I remember watching just her, just the way that she held herself in the studio and the way that she used her voice as an instrument. And so I just really want to take that challenge and step up to it basically on this album. And I got in the room with some of the best pop writers in the world, and I really just tried to hold my own as a singer. And I just learned so much from it, you know. I started writing melodies that weren't reaching for the stars every time, and I was staying in this little pocket, and it was really, really nice to experiment with my vocals, with my vocals and the computer as well, you know, to be able to change sounds and dynamics in my voice was really cool and exciting.
So the record was finished, it was set for release, had a different title. What did you want the album to say to people before the world changed? And what do you hope it says to people now, to your listeners?
I think hopefully the same thing. I think before the world changed, it was a bit more in your face as a point. But for me, what I want people to take away from this is that I have freed myself the last 2 years. I started to feel, you know, I've always been so proud of my queerness, and for some reason, as I became successful and well known, I started to hide a little bit of my queerness away through, you know, shame that had been put on me by other people and by myself. And the last 2 years were this time of learning how to live a life and not care as much about what people thought, because it was crippling me how much I cared about what people thought. And so this album was really a time for me to experiment and show off all these different facets of my personality and enjoy them and feel no shame around them.
You know, there's obviously a pressure that comes with album number 2. What are the kind of challenges and pressures that come with an album number 3?
I don't know, actually. Haven't really spoken to anyone about it, but for me, I felt none. Honestly, I haven't. I feel like I've entered a time where I'm making music, and I never stop making music. You know, I don't write an album and then stop writing. I've carried on writing throughout, and I'm trying to concentrate more now on the pressures I put on myself as a singer and as a musician, and not the pressures from around me, from money people, from people who aren't actually my fans, you know.
You're an artist who's known for bearing your soul in a really raw way, unfiltered way. You know, where did you want to go emotionally on Love Goes? And how much did you want to reveal of yourself to your fans? And is there a point where you're writing a song and you think this is too raw, or this is just too much, and I don't want to show this side of myself to my fans?
No, I never have that filter. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe it's at the expense of my mental health a lot of the time, but I don't. And I think I've learned over the last few years about boundaries for the first time, and I've formed them much more within my life. And I think in the studio, it's more of an open space. And I don't know, for me, filtering what I want to say when I'm in the studio wouldn't feel right. You know, I've just got to let whatever flows flow. because it feels too good and it feels too confessional and too honest. And for me, it's the most honest songs that always hit me the hardest. So I'm constantly just trying to write. I'm constantly trying to write songs like my idols. You know, and to do that, I need to push myself and be as honest as I possibly can. But yeah, it does bite me in the ass sometimes. I can't lie.
The Demi collaboration is amazing. I'm ready. Tell me a little bit about how that came about and why you wanted to collaborate with her.
It was, do you know what? That was such a fun period of time. I was in LA and I was out all the time, drinking, dancing, just being so openly queer and just having so much fun. I honestly had the best time those few months. And writing with Demi, you know, we wrote this song and we got her in, and we got to know each other in the studio, and she just blessed it. And I'm really happy we released it when we released it. It was right in the middle of lockdown, and it was just it was so nice to just do something fun, and where we really didn't take ourselves seriously. And it was just a great experience and time.
You've grown up in front of music fans. I remember buying your first album 6 years ago, and then I remember seeing you not far from Toronto. You played Way Home. You were the third artist and 3-night music festival, and it was wild. I mean, there was a cross section of fans. There was young, there was old, all singing to your music, which is really cool to experience just from a music fan perspective. How did you adjust to that level of fame and growing into your own artistry so quickly?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, if I'm honest. It's, you know, when people spoke about it being a roller coaster, I didn't quite understand how intense it would be, you know. On my first record, you know, my first ever time releasing music, I was kind of launched into a global kind of situation of fame where, you know, no matter where I went, I was going to be recognized. And it was really scary and really challenging and difficult. Wonderful elements, of course, but I would say for the first 4 or 5 years, I was really fighting against the tide. And it took the company and the support from my team and family to really help me understand and get used to this new normal that I was always going to have, that only really I go through, you know. So it's fame is a really hard thing to get your head around, but once you accept it, and once you really accept it, there's a lot of gratitude to have, and you really come back to the basics of why you do what you do. And for me, I'm just so happy that I have my trade and I have my voice and my writing to always come back to and know that's the reason why I am well known, you know, and not being well known for nothing, because that would break me, I think.
Those first 2 records to me are almost the equivalent of like a musical blanket. You put them on and you just feel good. How have you stayed true to the artistic vision you had for yourself, you know, 7, 8 years ago to now, to not change that vision or not compromise?
My thing was always to lean into the uncomfortable, to lean into where I was scared. And with any album, I do that. I remember reading a Bowie quote where he was like, you know, when you're releasing music or making music, it should feel like it does when you walk into the sea and your feet are just touching the bottom. And it's so true. And I was scared. I was scared to step into this pop dance narrative. You know, I know a lot of people will see me doing pop music, and when they see people do pop music, they think, you know, you've sold out or you're cheapening things. But for me, it was such a huge thing to step out and be able to dance in a music video and play and have a lightness with my songs, because I felt like I was always going to sing these heavy, sad love songs for the rest of my life. Even though there's quite a few on this album, but I'm always going to just try and lean into the uncomfortable when it comes to making of my music. And I'm already started writing my next record, and I'm really going back to a really rootsy place, and it's wonderful. It just depends how I want to sing on that day, you know. That's all.
So you just mentioned your next record. So where are you going to take people on that one? People haven't even heard this one yet.
I know. I'm awful. When I was releasing the Thrill of It All, I'd started writing this record. So I've been writing loads actually, and I'm loving what it sounds like. It sounds amazing. It sounds completely different. I think I'm going to be veering away from pop a little bit more than I ever have.
Music has meant different things to different people during this time. You know, myself, I've been going back, rediscovering old albums from my youth. What has music meant to you during this time? And what new albums or what old albums have you sort of gone back and rediscovered?
So whenever, you know, I mean, obviously nothing has ever happened like this before, but I have felt down like I have during COVID before. And not just down, but also silent, like peaceful. There was a peacefulness to lockdown where there was a quiet before in the city in London that I haven't never seen in London. And in those moments, I always go back to Tracy Chapman and that record. I go back to Feist, Aretha Franklin, Corinne Bailey Rae's first record, Martha Wainwright. I go back to like the voice and one instrument, storytelling and singing from your guts. That's kind of what I always go back to. Yeah, just the simplicity of a singer's story, which I've always loved.
You know, I'm looking back, what was your, you know, you were here almost out of the blue. It was like you referred to it as a roller coaster earlier. What was your earliest, biggest break? What was the thing that sort of turned things for you that made you think that this could be a career for yourself?
I would have to say it was my song with Disclosure, Latch. When that song came out, I was working in a bar in London, and it came out and it started rising up the charts, and then slowly I, you know, had to cut some shifts and carry on and go to the studio and start to promo it, and then suddenly record labels started to have interest, and then I was asking my managers like, can I quit my job now? And they were like, yeah. And I think it was that moment when I quit my job, there was this, I wondered if I'd ever be getting a job in that way again. And it feels so weird now to think that was kind of it feels so weird thinking back to that time. Freaks me out even talking about it.
We run these interviews on Sunday. What's an ideal Sunday for you, Sam?
Oh, Sunday's my perfect day. Sunday's my favorite day of the week. An ideal Sunday would be wake up after a lion, have a sausage sandwich, go and sit in the garden, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, listening to some music, then go back into the house, get showered, and then I'd love to just go on a long, long country walk around the countryside. And then you end up in a pub and you have some beers and a roast dinner, and then you wander a little bit tipsy back home, lay in front of the fire, watch a movie, and then go to bed.
That's awesome. My last question is, what's the best advice you ever got?
Oh, wow. Oh my God. Best advice. The best advice I ever got. Oh my God, that's so difficult. Best advice I ever got was probably, I'd say, from Robin. Robin, the artist, said to me when I was first coming out, we were performing at a German TV show together. And she came and sat next to me in the lunch hall. And she said, I've got one bit of advice to you. She's the only artist that's ever given me advice like that. And she said, take your time. And I really love that advice. I think it's important for everyone just to take your time with things. You found the one,